Now, for the tobacco industry, the threat of cargo crime is a daily and often violent and costly challenge, with attacks on supply chains across the EMEA region. To tackle this threat, the Tobacco Working Group, TWG, consists of supply chain security professionals from the world's leading tobacco companies. They're working to reduce the risk of criminal attacks and prevent product losses. And I'm delighted to say that we are joined today by 3 of the group's representatives. Gentlemen, do come and join us up on stage. Gino Laios, Senior Manager of Global Programs, Supply Chain and Manufacturing Security at Philip Morris International. Torsten Lucht, Security Risk Manager Group Security at Imperial Tobacco, and Herbert Anvander, Cluster Manager Security and Market Safety at Philip Morris International. I'll let you 2 gentlemen sit in the middle 2 seats. Now, firstly, we're going to be hearing a presentation from Gino. So we will then join Torsten and Herbert for our question and answer, and you can come and join us afterwards. Yeah. Thank you very much, Gino. Over to you.
Thanks a lot. Wow, it's basically an absolute delight to be here, and I think has been said before. I would like also to thank the TAPA team, Torsten, App, Marcus, and everybody else. I mean, I was telling Torsten yesterday, I came actually Sunday, so when I came in the hotel there was actually nothing. There were no banners, there was nothing. You would just feel that it's just a normal hotel. But then I stayed yesterday a little bit longer in the room, doing some work obviously and learning something new. And then when I came downstairs at 5 o'clock, it was just like everything that we see here. And for me it's like, you know, I know Torsten likes this word, amazing, so it looked really, really amazing. Good, so we're going to talk about tobacco today. I think one of the most interesting things that you can, think about the tobacco is, why are these guys collaborating? Yeah, I mean, why is that makes it so important for them to do it? And I think, let me see if I can do that. We'll get you through all these points that you see on the screen now. But first of all, it's why it's important for us, and I would like actually to join me, if you want, to actually congratulate our colleague from Europol and give a hand of applause. Because, and I will tell you why, because I was talking with the guys when we were on the seat, and I was like, well, I think it's the first time when we see someone which is really, really interested from the law enforcement. I mean, we all deal with law enforcement in our own markets and in our own region, but I think this is the first time when we see like really, really focus on that, and I would like to thank you on behalf of us and I think on behalf of everybody. Now, with no further ado, this is the team. You see some beautiful faces here, some of them are here as well. I would actually like to excuse Ralph from JTI, which was not able to join us. I mean, he's dealing with some medical things and we wish him all the best. So Ralph, if you are looking, we're with you, man. Now, why the reason of the cooperation? And I said before, I even had colleagues from my own organization saying, how did you guys manage to collaborate? And I mean, if you look at there, it's like, what is collaboration is not all about. We never discuss market share and we don't talk products. And then, I mean, if you look at us, you will actually imagine whether someone from marketing and sales will share things with us. So, because we are essentially security guys. But we also share the same risk, and we always say whenever we meet and whenever discuss is, when it comes to security, there's no competition. And I think that should be actually very important for everybody sitting in this room, because I think our competitor, if I would call a competitor like that, it's the criminal organization. And I think the idea, and I think this is also the credo of TAPA, I think when we read it there, leading security expert network in supply chain, that was the idea from the beginning. I think that was the basis of that. And we, as a group, we thought, what's the best way than actually joining forces, actually using intelligence that we are gathering to our processes, and then make it work not only in our favor, if I can put it like that, but also make it work for the risk profile. Now, we also look for knowledge to be shared. And I will share with you a bit later in the presentation a slide where you will see some numbers, and you'll understand why the drop and how everything went so well. Now, we also are sharing some like common requirements and time saving during audits. I think we have partners, LSPs in the rooms that they know we go now and then. I think now, for the past 2 years, rather less than it was before, and we actually go for some audits. And then what we have learned when we started to work together is actually that we are sharing a lot of the things that we are doing. Actually, we are doing it the same. So the question is like, why not starting to sharing them? Why not starting to use that information for the benefit of the group? Yeah, so I think out of any industry that is actually present here, you'll probably think that tobacco industry will be the last one to cooperate. But we were simply very happy to see, and I don't want anybody to feel offended, that among the other groups of the TAPA industries that are here, we started this, and I think there is a good way forward that we can continue. Not only the tobacco, but anybody else from any industry can do a very similar thing, and then there's going to be a lot to win out of that. Now we get a little bit into more things, and I'm not going to just read from the slides, but there are certain things that we have done and we have learned throughout our collaboration. So you see here a few examples of the things which are happening. I think there's nothing new. There is nothing, I would say, groundbreaking that we are showing. But actually, we had some learnings, and you have them there, and also some actions that we've put together. And it's essentially the way we are sharing the information and the way we're moving the things when looking at what are the measures that we need to take as a group have helped us to mitigate a lot of these issues and a lot of these situations that we were put in. And yeah, I think we all know, I was looking at the slide, and there was not tobacco on the first 5, but I'm sure that tobacco is on the first 10 because it's a very desirable product. It's easy to move. Yeah, and then it's likable. I mean, okay. Now, when we talk about risk assessment, I think everything that we do is actually going to a process of risk assessment. And we often ask ourselves, it's good to perform a risk assessment for the routes and parking has been quite a lot discussed into this forum, but what is approved actually used? And I will not give names, obviously, but we had several examples where we precisely told which parking is not to be used, and then they are finally used for one reason or another, and then you get a phone call and say, oh, well, your truck has been attacked and you just had some losses. So I think it's also a matter of the discussion, and this is one of the things we are looking to, is if we are having this and we provide this information, how we're actually making sure that this is being listened to and it's actually followed. Yeah, so again, the learning is to use the secure parking facilities. I'm sure this subject will get a lot of traction because it's one of the important aspects. Our colleagues just before us have shared a lot of these examples. But also one of the action was to actually have a process in place to ensure that, the drivers monitor and then they are just looking for these verified parking facilities so that they use. I think it's not only in the interest of the client, which is moving the product, but I think it's more and more in the interest of the provider, but also it's about the safety and security of the driver, which I think it's probably one of the most important part of it. Now, I think we are missing some things on a slide. I don't know why I don't see it. But it was about hijacking and what we are actually doing. So one of the learning we had is that we should do our best to protect our drivers. Yeah? And then you might just think about it, what I am saying our drivers, because these are not our drivers. But what we share this main concern and main care about things. It's not about the product that needs to be protected, but it's also about the people. We are in an industry, and while again I'm not going to share details, we've seen in our organization where the criminals are going for the violent attacks or violent hijackings, And we've seen unfortunate victims of that just because they would not let go to the goods. And I think in the latest years, we have been pushing that information and that message that while they are carrying a commodity, yeah, that is usually covered, is insured, there is ways you can retain it and you get it back, but it's not worth anybody's life, yeah. And I looked at the exhibitors, and everything that I've been asked is like, what are we doing to do that, to protect that? And I think that's something that we should all go after as being one of the important parties someone's life. Now, when you go about actions, is obviously the usual route planning, implementation of mobile panic buttons, and also collaboration with LSPs. It is known that we, as a industry, I can put it like that, as a sector, apart from what TAPA levels are, especially when it's in transportation, we came up with the +1, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, but that's exactly what we're trying to do, is put additional measures in place. Now, we all know how the contracts are being done, and I think everybody has a golden desire that all those ones they are signed that are just being followed, but sometimes things do not work the way they should work. And it's also a matter of, it's a challenge on what is implemented and how. So one of the learning for us was that I would not say there are many good LSPs. I think everybody is good. But there is also a matter of guidance, a matter of how do you build a program so that we actually mature and help them. Because the idea is, as a client, it's always a matter of what are you doing to work with your partners. And then there is a number of actions that we do there, and we are sharing a lot of information. I think if there is one point that I would want to underline on that is this group, it's all about sharing, it's all about learning from our experiences, from our events, from our losses, and also putting a process in place. And the LSPs that are in the room and they work for us as a supplier, they know that we do a lot of truck audits before actually the truck leaves our premises, just to make sure that all the things are in place. And then that information is obviously shared if needed. Now, I was trying to find a funny name what TWG stands for, but Sam stole it from me because she already said, so I'm not going to say it. I had a joke for that, but I'm not going to use it. So basically, TWG is for the Tobacco Working Group. What we are doing is actually we were looking for what are the specific requirements that are very relevant for the tobacco manufacturers to put them as an addition to the current TAPA TSR level 1. And this is where this level 1 plus came. But what is actually important is that we are using the level 1 as a basis. And what probably is not very known throughout is that our own supply chain security standards are actually based on the backbone of TAPA. Yeah? So we used it as a, call it best practice, minimum requirements. I don't like the word minimum requirements, but I've seen it as an amount of work that a lot of people have put into the standards, and I think we are all benefiting one way or another from the implementation. And we like this risk-based word. Is actually a requirement to be added depending on the risk assessment that we are actually doing. So there are situations, and we talked about a lot about Ukraine. We were in a position where there is scarcity when it comes to trucks that you can find with level 1 plus. But throughout these learnings and throughout this understanding, we kind of made sure that we have all these additional security features that are rather easy to implement, but at the end of the day serves the purpose of the transport. This is a bit of the schematic of level 1 plus, the famous level 1 plus, as some will say it. I think it has the obvious 3 components, the driver, the LSP HQ, and the monitoring center. It would have been great if I had the truck that was given to all of us yesterday, because I could have put it into the presentation, but I only got it today, so then make the presentation a little bit nicer. But you can see a little bit of the features that we have there. Some may consider it a lot, some may say it's pretty easy and basic to put it there. What we have learned that is very effective, and that is for sure. And I said I'm going to say something about data. Well, it seems that I'm missing a big part of the presentation, but it's very easy to put there. It's like you have, that's a graph, had some numbers. I think the number and some years, the green one should have been 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And in 2016, that bar represents 3,800 shipping cases of tobacco product. And we had started our collaboration in 2015, and we started to do these LSP HQ audits. Then we started to collaborate as a group. When we started to collaborate as a group, we also got information that we shared one to another. And it represents an example of one of the three, one of the three companies. Is not relevant to which one, but we could have seen a drop which is a little bit higher than 78%. So by only sharing the information, understanding where and what we need to do from routes, from the way we are working with the LSPs, you could see a 78.8% in the losses. I can tell you for sure that someone in the supply chain departments of our companies has been very, very happy. And since then, with a little bit of the movement, 2018 throughout 2022, I think or 2021, we continue to have all these requirements about intrusion alarm, discussion with the AMIC, starting and continuing our share audit. And in some situations, even if I can speak about the company I'm representing, it's also about discussing with the supply chain team on what is the other thing that we can add on, and then we can continue to reduce things. But when you go from 3,800 shipping cases to 800, yes, it happens, and we work on it. I think we are all seeing that the criminals are getting more and more sophisticated, and we got that information pretty clear from Europol. But it's a tangible thing that happened. I mean, you can look at it, and you can understand how that works. And again, the opportunity we had to working as a group has been more than what we have been probably asking for. And we stand here on the shoulders of our results, actually being able to see what is the outcome and collaboration is there, because I think collaboration is essentially key. Now, I think that was it, if I am not mistaken. I apologize for missing parts of the presentation, but I think it's going to be made available to the audience so they can see it. But there were just some nice pictures and things there that you have missed, but essentially not that much.
Gino, thank you so much. Do come and join us with Christian. You don't need to send them already. They're on. They're all on. It's all taken care of. So yeah, Gino, thank you so much for a really interesting presentation. I have some questions that I'd like to put to the three of you, but again, we welcome any questions from the floor. So we have two members of the TAPA EMEA team on the floor with microphones. So do either just put your hand up or even stand up so that we can see you if you'd like to ask a question. And don't wait for one person. Do stand up as soon as you'd like to so we can get you set up with the second microphone. Does anyone have a question to start with, or I will crack on and see if anyone wants to ask any? No. Torsten, then, let me start with you. How can we challenge the inadequate response of monitoring centers to incidents?
Okay. We have just seen on one of the slides the overview for the road transportation, and that showed the key elements like the driver, the carrier, and the AMIC. And it is key to our success story, actually, that they all work together. And therefore, AMIC has an important role in this, and we need to make sure that they are up for the task. That does not mean we only change or challenge the AMIC, but we challenge both sides. So because it is the responsibility of the carrier, actually, to make sure that his partner, the AMIC, exactly understands what is required, and that they establish and implement the procedures that we ask for, as we think they are necessary. So we are going to take a closer look at AMICs in future, because the market is quite dynamic, and over the last couple of years there have been some changes and we need to make sure that those new companies, spin-off companies, will work in our direction.
Herbert, let me come to you now. The presentation that we've just heard references TAPA's TSR Level 1 security standard. Do you use other TAPA security levels as the basis for your cigarette transport requirements?
Here we have to distinguish a little bit of what we are transporting. So when we are talking about transporting cigarettes, really, or what we call finished goods, then we would mainly use really TAPA Level 1. It might be a little bit different when we talk about transporting direct materials or other materials, then we will make use of other standards also.
Can you give us some examples of which ones, or?
This is a little bit different still between us. So we have one common standard for finished goods. For the other goods, it's a little bit different. What we are using, Philip Morris, for example, is level 3 for tobacco transporter.
Torsten, I'll come to you, and then Gino, I'll come to you next. So maybe, Herbert, you could pass the microphone across. Thank you. Torsten, some of the logistics companies in our audience may be wondering if they can still be awarded tobacco shipment assignments if they're not qualified for TSR Level 1. Is this possible?
Like Herbert said, for products, commodities, not Level 1, not HVTT cargo, it will be possible easily. Right now, in the special situation circumstances we have with the Ukraine war, Russian war on Ukraine, we are in a position where we sometimes need to accept that we don't get what we want. So we will add compensating measures and use other security levels as well, yeah.
Gino, let me come to you. I don't think it looks like we've got any questions from the floor. Do jump up if you want to ask one. So Gino, in order to achieve a common global level of supply chain security, it would be advantageous if all regions adopted the same standard. Is this planned?
Yeah, I mean, when we built the standard, although we knew that the maturity of the implementation on different regions is just a little bit different and we have to accept it. We obviously been challenged from interior whether that's working or not, but there is no other way than just having one global standard and then work on the exceptions. I think what would be great to see, and I know that the TAPA EMEA management is working on it, is to see a collaboration in between the three TAPAs that we have. We have the TAPA APAC, we have EMEA, and then we have the Americas. And we, as it's a global company and we have a global footprint, we are also here to support TAPA into the regions to kind of pass on the message that that collaboration and that alignment is actually going to serve us all. We understand that there are different risk profiles. I mean, there's one thing to move goods in, sorry, I don't want to offend anyone, in Croatia, for example, and there's the one to do it in Mexico. But you still have the requirements to be there. You do your risk assessment, you do your gap analysis, and then you use the specific tools that you integrate into the way you are building your supply chain security to make sure that you are adapting to the risk environment.
Thank you, Gino. Herbert, let me come to you. We've seen a big increase in criminal attacks involving last-mile tobacco shipments. How are you responding to this?
In fact, this is really an issue because we see, especially in some hotspots like south of Italy, France, but now also in Germany, we see these attacks, also hijackings. How do we respond? Of course, we are working very closely with the local LSPs because they have the best knowledge, the best connection also to the police. And then we are really doing risk assessments depending on where this is happening and to see what really can be done. So there is no global approach, but you really have to take it to see the local circumstances and then react accordingly.
Thank you, Herbert. And I can see we have a question at the back. So if you'd like to just introduce yourself and then maybe, I don't know who you'd like to direct the question to or generally.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Nenad. I'm from Milšpet company from Serbia, logistics company. I would like to ask you what is the plan for the future when we speak about the additional requirements for the equipment. So we know that all the tobacco producers have the similar levels of standards, and you reach some level on the quite high, let's say, technical development. But can we expect something more in the near future, or maybe in the long future? For example, to something additional from the technical side, if you understand me well. So now, for example, we know that we have TAPA level 1, TAPA level 1 plus, even more equipment is something that we install from time to time. But can we expect something more that you will require to the logistics companies?
Herbert, is Torsten? Torsten.
Yeah. No problem. Thank you for your question. I think you're not asking for more money to be spent. No, actually, right now, we are quite happy with the level we have achieved. And though we are in the process of reviewing our standard as it is now, we do not expect to raise the bar any higher. We are, like I said, quite happy with what we have.
Thank you for that question. And if anyone else does want to, before we wrap up, do put your hand up or stand up. Torsten, let me stick with you for one of our final questions. What are the next steps for the Tobacco Working Group? Other than
I touched on that already. Yeah. So we are in the process of reviewing the standard we have in place. Most of you may know it. We are about to be more specific with the AMIC requirements. That's another step. And we have joined the TAPA standard team and support them in their review process for the TSR for the next version to be published in 2023.
Let me finish by asking you all, excuse me, the same question. Herbert, I'll start with you, and then maybe you could pass the mic over to Gino. Herbert, are there any other insights about your collaboration that you'd like to share?
One thing I want to mention that I think we were also lucky because for some nice reason we just got along very well with each other. Because I think for doing something like this, you need people who are willing to take compromises also. And we really had a lot of fun. And we are often saying it's more productive and more fun working sometimes with competitors than within your own company, which was good.
Torsten.
I can only agree. No, really. We had a difficult start. We discussed it in the end of 2016 the first time and then decided, let's go for it, let's try it. And we had a lot of meetings, we had to make compromises, and then we had challenges internally with our partners, with logistic guys, with legal. There were a couple of questions really challenging us, whether we would share information about our market distribution and figures and whatsoever. And a special challenge I got when our lawyer said, and now you are actually building a monopoly. So you are excluding carriers from servicing. I said, no, we are opening the market. We try to be more open. We try to be better explaining what we actually want from our carriers. So and by explaining it one time for 3 companies, we were hoping to open the market and get more offers for our tender processes.
Thank you, Torsten. Gino, let me ask you finally, are there any insights about your collaboration that you'd like to add to what Torsten and Herbert have already said?
Well, I'll just have to try to top the German sense of humor, but look, I think it's all fun for what I can say. We are also, there is an obvious, I will not name it, but we are all smart people in the room. There is an obvious partner, I will not call it competitor, that is going to join us soon into our journey, and I think that's going to add even more traction and add the experience that they have with the way they are securing their supply chain, and I can say for sure that we're gonna get stronger by doing that. On the other hand, I think as on the point that Torsten has mentioned, our let's say, desire was never to close the market. I think the high-value transportation is actually opening more and more. If we look at the number of the attacks, if we look at in Europe, you are a little bit, how should I say, kind of blocked in the routes that you are using, and these routes are actually essentially high risk. If we work together as an industry, and then we can also see, as I said in the presentation, I think if we can see other industry joining forces and look at what is specific for them, how we can actually bring value to the standard. Because, I mean, the standards we have and the team is working on it and is always doing every I think it's 3 years when we have a new version. We are always looking to improve, and I think that's what our aim was from the beginning, is first of all to understand the risk profile and the landscape, find a common, I would say, language, but then bring that to the standards group and go and say, hey, I mean, we want you help when we want to make those standards being better and better. As I said, at the end of the day, we are all transporting things. We want them to get to the destination. We want them to provide them to the client in time, because I think that's the whole idea. But we also want to become actually a business partner to our own organizations. I was asked outside about, what can providers of technical solution can do, and I always said, and that's a challenge that we have also within, and it's a challenge that I kind of took with the role, is how do you build relevancy to the business? Because, let's be honest, I mean, security is seen as a cost center, but we need to stay relevant to the business. So then you have to think about what is the toolbox of solution that you can go there and actually bring value. And I think sharing all these learnings, your thinking process gets out there, and it's like, oh, okay, but maybe we can do some more, maybe we can look at this, that, on the other. And that has been a continuous, let's say, discussion in our group, and that's why it's fun, because, it's like one, two pair of eyes is more than one, so.
Well, gentlemen, thank you once again for the presentation, Gino, and Herbert and Torsten as well for joining in with the Q&A. I'm sure everyone will agree it's been really insightful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please turn back to the audience.